And I like to think that I'm showing my kids that they can do anything that they want, that whatever they want to achieve, they can, and that hard work pays off.
You're listening to the Laughing Couple podcast with your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy. Join them weekly as they discuss topics such as relationships, kids, sex, parenting, all unfiltered and all with a healthy dose of laughter. Please welcome your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy.
Okay, we have such a special guest. You know what's so funny? We haven't had a guest in months. Like, we're very, very particular about our guests. So we have Meaghan Mikkelson here today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Wow, what an honor.
Honestly, we were like, if it's not Meaghan, we don't want her.
What an unbelievable opportunity to speak with a multi-world champion in a Canadian sport that we love so much, which is hockey.
Does it ever feel like weird to think about is it still shocking to like when people introduce you, or you're like, oh yeah, that's me? Or are you like, yeah, no, it's me?
It's definitely weird. Like, even when you just said that, I was like, oh, but that's cool. I think, obviously we set goals for ourselves and dreams, and it was a dream since I was a little girl to play in the Olympics and win a world championship. So I think when I still hear it now, it's like, wow, that's really cool. So
It's amazing. Well, you earned that. Edification is something that's not given to people, and either as a gold medal at a world scene. So multiple world champion and multiple gold medalist. So let's jump right into it, because I know that your time is limited, and thank you so much for jumping onto this and giving us and our community the opportunity to have this conversation.
Pick your brain.
Yeah, sports is so important to us as a family. Sports is so important, obviously, to you and your partnership with SportChek. So we just wanted to have a quick powwow with you on some of the things that separate sports from the rest of the world in terms of opportunities to find yourself and discover yourself and grow and expand. So really quickly, do you want to just give a brief overview? We know who you are current, but now you're evolving into this new version of yourself post-hockey, somewhat post-hockey.
What are you up to?
Can you just update us where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I played this year in with the PWHPA, the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, after playing in the World Championships last fall. So I'm in an interesting space right now of kind of deciding what's next. Have my two kiddos. I'm working as an NHL analyst for Sportsnet, covering the Calgary Flames primarily. Also have done some work with TNT, a US network. So that's kind of I call it my side hustle outside of hockey. And then I'm also currently doing my MBA.
Wow.
So lots on the go.
You're like,
I'm
I don't
sure
sleep.
a lot of parents can relate to.
Maybe not that much. I don't know if there's a lot of parents that can relate to what you just described.
We're so busy.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Megan's
that
like,
makes sense.
I actually work 23 hours a day. And we're like, oh, well, we're lazy in comparison.
Oh, and by the way, I forgot. Yeah, I'm working on my MBA.
that too. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So so you have two children. How old are your children?
My son is 7.5, Calder,
Okay.
and my daughter is 4, and her name's Berkeley.
Oh my God.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. I know
As
you're
you do.
I know you're going to get into something really cool, but I have one really specific. Were you not born in Edmonton?
I was born just outside Edmonton in St. Albert, yes.
So did you grow up as an Oilers fan?
Look at her face.
And now you're covering the Flames? Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
I covered a game at the end of December, and it was the Battle of Alberta. So it's always
That's so
interesting when that happens, like the responses I get on social media from the people in Edmonton and the people in Calgary. Anyways, it's
Hide the Edmonton tattoo while you speak on behalf of the Flames. I totally get it. Sorry, Brittany, I had to ask that question.
No, that's fine. I love it. Okay, so you've got two kids, and our daughter, who just turned 9, we were introduced to the world of cheerleading this year, and it's like a very, very competitive sport. Like, we had no idea. So we are just learning. There's a lot of correlations between team sports and parenting, right? And so I can only assume that you have literally such an in-depth knowledge of this, because as a professional athlete and a mom, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover from what you've learned in your years of being on a team to parenting. And we're just wondering if you could share with us some of like things that you felt were transferable, that you learned while playing sports, and then as you've taken into parenting to teach your own kids.
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to parenting specifically, I think that one of the lessons that I've learned is being flexible, and being able to adapt quickly, and very often to what we're dealing with. Obviously, as parents, things are always changing, and different balls are being thrown at us, and we're constantly having to pivot. And I think as an athlete, that was something that I was always used to,
Right.
especially throughout the course of a 60-minute hockey game. There's a lot of things that happen that you have to be able to deal with, whether if it's adversity, injuries, any of that, being able to pivot and to
Right.
run with it and to be okay with it. So as a parent, I think I like to think that that's a skill that
Yeah.
I've brought over. Obviously nobody's perfect. So there's times where the pivot doesn't happen quickly at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely one thing. Another for me is, we don't think about it too often, I don't think, is riding the highs and the lows. I think, it's throughout the course of a day as a parent, like there's highs and there's lows, right? Like 1 minute my daughter is screaming her head off, and I feel like I'm going to rip my hair out, and things can't get any worse. The house is a mess. There's laundry everywhere. Dinner has to be cooked, whatever. And then 10 minutes later, she's cuddling me saying, "Oh, mommy, I love you so much." And you're like, "Oh, my life's the best. My heart's so full." So, but it's riding those waves, and never getting too high and never getting too low. And I think that in sport, that happens a lot. You have to, make sure that you're keeping an even keel, recognizing, any low points and emotions there, high points, emotions there, and just kind of, trying to keep an even keel. But, I also think of all the lessons that I've taken away from sport,
Right.
like in terms of teamwork and leadership, communication, being able to, like I said, handle adversity, time management, dedication, motivation. Like the list is endless.
Right.
We could probably talk for hours about it. And that's why I think it's so important for me as a parent to have my kids in sport, because I have seen and felt all of those lessons and how they have benefited me in my life outside of sport, whether it's in business or work or TV, in doing my MBA. So that's why I really felt it was important to get my kids involved in sport from a young age.
I have a ton of questions as an athlete, but as an avid watcher who has watched, your career fascinates me. Very rarely.
Why are you like fangirling right now?
It is what it is. Get over it, Brittany. It fascinates me because as a male athlete, we don't experience some of the things that female athletes experience. And I know Brittany's going to touch on that, and it's not my place to have the conversation because it's not relatable for me. So I'll let Brittany take it. But one thing that really fascinates me with getting to the level that you got to is when you're trying out for Team Canada, everybody that's in the tryout is your competition. You are literally competing against these women for a job and for an opportunity to represent your country. As soon as that team is picked, that competition becomes teammates. And then as soon as they become teammates, you now have to learn to win with someone who 5 minutes earlier was literally an enemy of yours. What is it like to go from frenemy to teammate to literally, you have something as an Olympic champion with that other individual that nobody can understand. It's a sisterhood. We call it a brotherhood. What is it like to go through that transition? Because in the real world, work-wise, sometimes we don't work with people that we like.
Right. It's
but
like
we still
emotional
need to
warfare.
win.
Yeah. Your coworkers, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think when I was young and when I was a younger athlete, I saw it that way, as like, these are people I was competing with. And at the end of the day, yes, you are competing with them. But one really important lesson that I learned was that if you take the focus off of that and put the focus on making others around you better, you actually perform better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focusing on who you're competing with, who you're up against, and how they're performing versus how you're performing, that takes away from your own performance. And I think that's, no matter what we're doing, that's the truth. So once you focus on, and I really, really felt this later on in my career, that once I started thinking about how can I make others around me better, that made me better.
That is
also
such an important, I feel like, transferable skills to even like teach your kids, because you're
Yes.
setting them up for success, but you're also setting them up to be like a great team player. Like if you are in a job where your team has to handle a certain project and people are being competitive about it, maybe there's commissions or whatever, to give your children these skills, these transferable skills, I feel like is unmatched. And you, like, where else are you going to find that other than sport?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so cool.
And it's the constant exposure that you get to it in sport as well, right? It's literally every single practice and every single day that, they're going into that and they're experiencing those things. But, I think that's really something that's probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the course of my career. And once you focus on making others around you better, it makes the team better. And then it makes it so much easier to go from, yes, we're competing against each other for spots on a team, to being a part of a team and trying to win together. It takes away that middle part,
Right.
like you talked about, of having to kind of shift your mindset if that is your focus, is making others better and making the team better. It just makes it so much easier and so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So much more enjoyable and less stressful.
Less pressure too, like on you as an individual. If everybody has the same mindset of like, as a team, let's make sure that we're all like, I'm trying to make you better, you're trying to make me better. It's taking the pressure off of yourself to be like, if you don't play your best, you're going to let your team down. Right.
Exactly.
Like that's a huge shift in the mindset.
I love the idea of pressure, because in my sports journey, in terms of watching, because I stopped playing sports when they told me I had to.
You were don't cut it. Ryan was going to go to the States for football. He's definitely like downplaying his
cheerleader over here. Awesome. Appreciate you immensely. I find it fascinating because you play for a team, for a country, in a sport that you are expected to win every time you touch the ice. Every time. And I no knock on the other countries, but when it comes to women's sports, and specifically women's hockey, there are two nations in the world that are favored to win every single tournament they walk into. You've won more than you've lost in these massive, massive tournaments. Our daughter just finished second in the nationals and apologized to us for losing.
It was like so heartbreaking.
Finishing second in the world, or finishing second in the country, is such an achievement.
Yeah.
When you're so used to winning, and your children are so used to winning, and your family's so used to watching you win, coming home with a silver medal in the Olympics, most people that would be a dream come true. For the Team Canada and women's hockey, that is not the dream. What is it like to come home with a silver medal? That lesson to your kids, I think, is more important for me to learn than what it's like to come home with a gold medal. What is it like coming home with a silver?
So one of my favorite stories to tell from the Olympics was from 2018, when we won the silver medal.
Thank you. That's amazing.
And well, I think, first of all, I think pressure is a good thing. I think it can be a good thing. It pushes us and it makes us better, as long as we handle it in the right capacity. But it was after we lost the game. Right after we lost the game, and I would always, we were in South Korea, and after every single game, I would go find my husband and my son in the stands, and they were there. He's 2.5 at the time. And so after the game, obviously, we're really upset. We lost. We feel like we let our country down. But I go and I find my husband and my son, and I look up, and my son is waving frantically, like with the biggest smile on his face. Hi, mommy. Hi, mommy. Like screaming. So cute. And that was actually a lesson that he gave me in like, okay, here's some perspective.
Right.
You just won a silver medal at the Olympics representing your country,
Mm-hmm.
and you have your husband and your healthy, beautiful 2.5-year-old son in the
Mm-hmm.
stands.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that was a really important lesson that, it's not about the wins and the losses.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. There's so much more to sport than, the medals and the trophies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you take away from it. And I think back on my career and the things that I remember, yes, I remember winning. Yes, I remember losing. But the things that I remember the most are the experiences, the memories, my teammates, and those moments with my teammates and my family. And all of those lessons that I've taken away from sport. So that was a pivotal moment, I would say, in my career and how I view sport and the importance of it, and it was like a massive dose of perspective, just like slapped me across the face in that moment. It was like, okay,
so important.
It's not about the color of the medal and
right.
But I love how you said you won the gold, the silver medal,
mm-hmm.
because often it's looked at as you lost the gold.
Yeah.
But you had to get to the championship game. You earned silver. There's only one team that gets silver.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cool thing that you said that you guys won silver.
I think we're really lucky too that, at the Olympics, you're with all of these other sports.
Right.
And so you're with a luge athlete that is like over the moon if they win a bronze medal. And whenever, if we would win gold or silver, and they're so excited for us. Or I remember one skeleton athlete got fourth and was so unbelievably happy. And it was like, at first I'm like, well, you didn't even get a medal, but it was like personal best time. Like thinking back on it, that's a personal best time. A sport that historically we don't typically do that well in. Mm-hmm. And like watching them celebrate with their coach and their teams, like it was, we're really lucky that we get to be around all the other athletes, and recognize that it's not just about the medals.
Going back quickly about your son when he was watching you play, I want to talk about this because I feel like a mom who isn't a professional athlete deals with.
But you were a great swimmer, Brittany. Just kidding.
Shut
I had to.
It was a lonely sport. It's fine. So being a mom who isn't currently an athlete or not in like a sport, I feel like moms in general know what it's like to experience immense amount of mom guilt. Now throw in the fact that you have a tremendous amount of pressure doing like something insane, like going to the Olympics, right? And I'd love for you to speak on how you kind of balanced this situation of like really furthering and putting your career here and not being like, well, I'm a mom, so I'm not going to strive for that because I need to be a mom. And I just like, that is absolutely amazing to me that you still did all of these incredible things and were a mom. Like
2 times.
So well, powerful.
Thank you.
So powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, mom guilt is real. It is very, very real. And I definitely have experienced it and still do. I mean, I think, as a working parent, if you're busy and you're away from your kids and, you miss a practice or you miss anything, you feel bad. And I think that's natural. And I think, it's a normal thing to feel. For me, I always try to think of it in the lens of our kids watch everything we do. Mm-hmm. You guys know that, like literally everything we do. And part of our responsibility as parents is setting a positive example. So I try to think of it as, say, my daughter, for example, and she's watching me, compete at the international level and win a world championship. She's watching me work on TV in a male dominated sport. She's watching me, get an MBA or a very high education. And I like to think that I'm showing my kids that they can do anything that they want that whatever they want to achieve, they can, and that hard work pays off. So, instead of, feeling guilty about it, even though I still do, and I think, like I said, that's normal, I try to think of it as I'm showing them that, I'm setting a really good example for them. I'm being a positive role model and showing them that they can do anything that they set their minds to. And that helps. It helps.
For sure. I'm so glad you went with that angle, because you're right. Like, as your children get older, specifically your daughter, it's going to be so important for her to say, like, or see that, her mom also prioritized something that she worked really, really hard for and didn't have to give anything up. Like, she just learned to balance like anything, right? I mean, I don't have to go out and train for world championships, but like my daughter often is upset when I'm like, oh, you're leaving again. If I'm just literally going to see my friends, and I'm like, well, like mommy deserves to do something for her. And although it does hurt my feelings because she's just stabbing me in the heart with the guilt, I'm like, you need to know when you're older, it's okay to prioritize your own mental health or your own goals. So I love that you said that. So
yeah,
good.
1,000%. And like, I love that, that honesty, right? And saying, I need to do this for myself. And I think that when we do prioritize what we need, I think it makes us better parents.
Agreed.
As well at the end of the day.
I have so many questions. I'd love to talk. I'd love to have a conversation about being a mom, just being like birthing a child and then going from birthing a child into going back into your sport. I know you suffered a serious knee injury, came back. And by the way, 37 is not old, but being able to make a world championship team post-injury, post-childbirth at 37 is a difficult thing. I'd love to talk about those things. I know we don't have enough time, so I don't want to skip over this. We were doing some research on you, and one of the posts that you had showed a statistic that girls are 1.5 times more likely to quit their sport than boys are. Not everyone makes an Olympic team. Not everyone gets a gold medal put around their neck. But more often than not, people give up before they reach their peak. Their peak is whatever the level is. Why do you think it's critical specifically for girls in sports to go as far as they can take their sport for themselves before giving it up?
Yeah, I think, that's a really interesting question. And I think, you think about, I think being a girl is hard. And, I say that in the most positive, best way possible. And I think being a teenage girl is hard. I think there's so many expectations around what you should or shouldn't be doing. And I think that's played a big role in girls dropping out of sport. So I think it's important for those of us who have been involved in sport. I'm 38 years old, as long as I have. I think it's important for us, and we have a responsibility to those younger female athletes to show them the benefits of staying in it and how good it is for you. So, I think that the message shouldn't be like, you should keep doing this or you shouldn't keep doing this. I think it's more around, you need to find what you love, find what makes you happy, find what keeps you healthy, and do that. I think that, that's really important. But like I said, just sharing, for me, sharing the messages of what I've taken away from sport and the lessons and, competing as long as I have, I think I have a responsibility to share that with others.
Absolutely.
And just like, there's so many amazing things that you take away from sport, even if you don't play at the highest level. Like, all of the lessons that I've learned, it could have been, playing, at a mid-tier level, and I think of a lot of the lessons that I've learned came from my younger years in sport as well, that I've taken with me through the rest of my life. So I think that, being healthy, being active, finding what it is that you love to do and your passion, I think that, those are the important messages.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of furthering this too, if you really dissect that situation of maybe just encouraging them to continue, maybe not at like, don't ever stop, but just continue it. You look at like where you are now in your life post, like championship, and you have these amazing goals for yourself and you're doing incredible things. Like you're on TV, you're an analyst. Like it's almost like you had all of this discipline, this determination, this, like you believed in yourself because of all the things you learned while you were doing sports, that it's now giving you today as an adult, the confidence to pursue even more things that maybe you might not have had you not pushed yourself through all of that training and those things when you were younger. Like it's just such a correlation. It's awesome.
For sure. And it's also, I think one of the biggest things you take away from sport is that the zest for continuous learning and continuous growth. And I think that that's a big reason why I still, am wanting to do different things and get better at different things. Is that's such a big lesson that we take away from sport is always wanting to be better and to better ourselves, and to take that away into life like that is so powerful.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, Meaghan, I know that you're, I just looked at the clock and I know that you are up against that clock.
She's a busy woman.
Oh, that went by so fast.
I know, it's crazy, eh?
We are so appreciative of the fact that you've taken the time to have this conversation with ourselves and with our community. I know that this is going to transfer to a lot of people's households, and these are going to be conversations that parents get to have with each other.
With their children.
We talked about it earlier on the podcast. I know that putting money into your kids' sports during these times is really tough, and it's difficult, and it's a decision that parents have to make, and it's a sacrifice that parents have to make.
Right.
But listening to you, I think more than anything solidifies how important it is to lean into their kids and to give their kids the opportunity to participate in sports and to participate in a team, and that has ripple effects throughout their entire lives that, frankly, I don't think you can get from anywhere but sports. So thank you so much for creating that space for us to have that conversation. And we're just so grateful that you were able to join us today.
Oh, thank you guys.
You have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. You guys too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Aside from my soul.